What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 35 of Overhand Right Radio. It's Jason and Cole back at you for another episode. I'm going to break down what was... Actually, I watched every fight. I had time, wasn't doing anything on Saturday, had a hockey game, came home early, got home just in time, wasn't doing anything, and I literally got to watch the Fight Pass prelims, which usually I have to catch up after. I watched the prelims on TSN here, FS1 for people in the States, and I watched, of course, the main card. Fantastic card, Cole. Fantastic. Every fight was good. Every fight seemed like had significant. We had a little bit of drama on the prelims. We had some close fights, obviously, on the Fight Pass too. But let's start from the bottom. Let's start with Fight Pass. Of course, we're going to talk a little bit about some news and rumors like we always do. But I'm really hyped about this card. I really thought it was, from top to bottom, fantastic. This being said, UFC 223 is also, if you haven't, people, go look at what UFC 223 is doing with their prelims on the Fight Pass and before that, and it's absolutely phenomenal. That could be a fight night on its own, but that's in a month. It's close by my birthday, so that's going to be a good birthday weekend for myself. So.
Have you seen the two hype videos?
I've seen, yeah, they played one during the main card.
And they got me.
Yeah,
they got me big time on those two.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, fantastic. I love Tony Ferguson, the Khabib one. That just gives you chills. Hopefully, what is it? Third time? How many times have been booked?
They booked it fourth. This will be the fourth.
Hopefully, fourth time's the charm. I know we talk about curses on this podcast, but hopefully 223 has no curses, or else I'll be very upset. It's my birthday weekend. Damn it. Don't mess this up. But let's talk about UFC 222 and a lot of good fights on there. Cody Stamann and Bryan Caraway. I don't know if you caught that, Cole, but I personally, I don't think Bryan Caraway lost that fight, but that was a really close fight. It was really down, grinding dirty, came down to the third round, I believed. And let's just say there were some judges one judge on the prelim that happened to be in connection with Canelo and Triple G, and she's not the best judge, so there was a little wonky scorecards. I think there was one where two judges had it 29-28 for, I forget what fight it was, had 29-28 for, let's say, the red corner, and she had it like 30-27 for the blue. She messed up.
That was the Milstead Johnson.
Was it?
Yeah, it was the first fight.
Okay.
She had, two judges had 29-28 for...
Milstead. No, Johnson. Sorry, yeah. And she had a 30-27 Milstead.
Yes, I believe so.
Which I in the second round when Johnson had control of that fight, I'm going, how do you score that? Anyways, but we know.
Which means, which confirms she doesn't know what the hell she's doing.
No, and the funny thing was DC and Joe Rogan were cracking jokes on there too on the air, but it's just like, it comes to a point where you're just like, oh man, like, I was sitting there and that was the first fight of the night and I was going, oh gosh, if we run into a big scenario like a major fight, like it was a Frankie or Ortega for who's going to verse Holloway, and we ran into something like that where one judge was just so screwy it messed things up. But luckily we didn't. There was a lot of finishes on the card, so luckily we didn't. But yeah, Johnson Milstead, I thought that was a really good fight. I thought both guys performed pretty good. That was a tough, close fight. Bryan Caraway Stamann, like I was talking about, I thought that was a really good fight too. Down, gritty, dirty. Caraway looking for the takedown, relentless with the takedown. He was really phenomenal. And then when he got Stamann down in one of the rounds, he was able to just control. And his people sleep on him, and I know people make jokes about him because he's once in a relationship from Misha Tate. But if you do that, I think you're just uneducated. Because to me, Bryan Caraway, he's one of the best. I mean, he's a top 10 ranked bantamweight, so I don't know how you can knock him. I mean, he has big wins over like Sterling and stuff.
I think his knock is he hasn't been able to get over the top 5 hunt. Like
true, but he's been out for a little while, but he put on a good performance, and I think people doubt him, and he's always the dog. But to me, I think he's one of the legit guys, and I personally had him winning that fight. But I think he's going to bounce back strong and come back even stronger. But his ground game, jiu-jitsu, and his passes are legit. They're so slick. I said on Twitter and he even liked it, but it's true. I was watching it and I was just like, dang. Of course, Mike Pyle, unfortunately, he didn't get his fairy tale end to his career. He got TKO'd in the first round, but good performance by him. But let's talk about Hector Lombard CB Dalloway, because that's the one that got everybody talking. Cool. Hector Lombard says it was after the bell. I mean, he says, it was after the bell. He says there was in motion and he didn't mean to hit him after the bell is what I'm trying to say. Mm-hmm. To me, I look, you had a lot of fights in your belt. You know what you're doing. People say they're in motion. I don't have to agree with that. Because, okay, yeah, he's reacting the strike that CB Holloway threw, but in the end, he threw a left and he followed up with the right. And that both those punches were after the bell. So even he threw one and followed up with a second with the right after he threw the jab. I think good call by the commission. Good job by the ref, and I think it was the right call. And CB Holloway should get the victory. It's not the way he wants, but he got the victory.
Yeah, listen. It was clearly after the bell. I don't think there's any disputing that on either side of the argument, if there is an argument. It was late, and the refs, the judges, they got the call right. It was a DQ for sure, a DQ, and for sure a win for CB Holloway.
I'm glad. I would just say this. I'm glad they got it right because we've seen so many scenarios where they would have called it a no contest, and that would have been unjust, I should say, to CB Holloway because that was, and he should win DQ. So I'm glad the commission got it right.
Listen, on the records, it's going to say a win, but in the eyes of Dana White, the UFC, the fans, people look at it as like a no contest. You know what I mean? Wouldn't be surprised if this got even rebooked. Right? I texted you right after that fight. I was at home watching the prelims, and I said they got it right, and that they're probably going to rebook this. Right? It was a bad ending from CB Holloway's standpoint. It did look like he let up a bit. You know what I mean? It kind of like, I think if to some people like, oh, did he let up? Did he not let up? It looked to me like he let up. It looked like the second punch Hector threw after the bell rang, it looked like he let up for that last punch that really hurt him. And for Hector, the first punch he threw after the bell, I was okay with. I was like, I understand how he's like, oh, I was in motion. Okay, I get it. I get how the first punch, but it's the second punch that's super late to me. And that's the punch that hurt him.
And that's what I'm trying to say. Like, he threw the left, and then he followed up with the right after. And the initial left, the left hand was after the bell, and then the right hand was even later.
The left hand, to me, wasn't...
borderline, in my opinion.
I was okay with it.
Okay.
Because I understand how it's like, boom, bang, boom, right? But this happened... But what happened was a hit, bell, hit, hit. Right? It's like... at that point, it's just too late to me, for me. Right? So I think they got it right. I think they got it right. The situation, they got right. Perfect.
I think if you're Hector Lombard, you're lobbying for this to be rebooked because technically that is a lot.
He's trying to appeal it, which
isn't. Name one time someone's appealed something that's really gone their way. Not a lot of times.
There's even. I mean, listen, Holly Holm. In recent memory, she probably had the most legit appeal when she fought Jermaine Durandamy.
Yeah.
She probably had the most legit appeal I've seen in the last, off the top of my head, 3 years. And she lost.
Yeah.
So when guys like Hector are appealing this, it's like, dude, you got no chance.
Exactly.
You got no chance.
And I think Hector's going to want this rebooked because technically this did count as a DQ loss. So it is a loss on his record, and that's 5 in a row. So you don't want to be cut or anything, not saying that he might be, but he's on that borderline, and you want to get it rebooked to say, hey, if the fight would have lasted longer, I can rock him again. Hopefully the UFC grants you that, but I say rebook it. I think both men kind of want to rebook it, so I think that's the route they should go.
CB's going to need some time, though, because he legit got rocked.
Oh, yeah, dude. He got rocked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's for sure going to need some time, but...
Yeah. Mackenzie Dern, Ashley Yoder. That was a good fight. I was surprised before this. I said it on Twitter. I was like, man, there was this hype train, and Vegas had Dern as the clear favorite, but there's a lot of people, backing up Yoder saying, hey, I think she can defend the takedown and keep it up on her feet. Mackenzie Dern ends up getting the split decision win, so she moves on, gets her UFC debut. She gets the win. Ashley Yoder, I thought, put up a great performance, had a really good takedown defense. Really only got taken down in the third round and was still able to defend that rear naked choke that Dern was trying to go, even though it was the top of the cross of her chin and it looked painful. She was able to defend it, and she did a good job doing that. Mackenzie Dern, in my opinion, she showed pretty decent striking. She obviously wanted to get this to the mat, and then when we saw it in the third round, that's when we saw her more comfortable and what she's used to, her background in jiu-jitsu. But the thing with me, I think she needs to polish up that striking a bit, and that will come over time. Mm-hmm. And she also has to work on getting takedowns from the clinch because she struggled with that, and she struggled really getting the fight to the mat. She's fine when it's at the mat, but it's that in between from the striking to pushing her opponent up against the cage to executing that double leg takedown, that trip from the clinch, and getting it to the ground. And that's what she has to perfect to really become that. Like Ronda Rousey did that, right? Like when Ronda Rousey was at the top of her game, she had no problem,
But she's from judo.
Exactly. Where the toss is already in place, so you can get the person to the mat. With Mackenzie Dern, her background is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, pulling guard, gi, and all this stuff. But the transition needs to be getting the fight to the mat.
Jiu-Jitsu players that come over and don't have the tools for legit double leg takedowns, single leg takedowns, throws, they have a lot of problems, right? You see this. But what did you see? If I was her coach I would take a look at what Demian Maia does, right? Demian Maia, when you talk about him as far as wrestling, not high pedigree, but somehow he gets guys to the floor where he can take over with jiu-jitsu, right? And he does it with different throws, different tosses, clinch. I mean, there's times where he literally just clinches the guy, has him basically in sort of a body lock with his hands, and basically just drags them to the ground, right? And so she needs to take. I mean, and even he against elite wrestlers has still problems taking them to the ground via Woodley, that Woodley fight. She needs to get better in the wrestling department, because think about it. If she could legitly double leg and wrestle,
she could back people up against the cage, have their back against the cage, shoot a double, get them down. It's game over.
Exactly.
People are going to need that. If that can be your number one offense, if she can execute that, she's the scariest person in the division.
Yeah, and going back to just jiu-jitsu players, and they love to get from point A to point B. And point A is standing up, point B is down on the ground. The problem with a lot of them faces, how do we get from point A to point B? Mm-hmm. A lot of them struggle with it. So that's why I kind of encourage her to get better with her wrestling and definitely polish up her striking. But one really good positive, I mean, she won, so there's a lot of positive, but one good positive with it is she seemed very game. Right? Like, I was watching her strike, and I'm like, well, she's leaving herself open. And her striking is very amateur. I mean, that's not a diss. That's just facts. But she looked game. Like, she was swinging. She was taking shots. And I was like, man, like she's for a jiu-jitsu, pure jiu-jitsu person to come to MMA, and like she talked about not really liking to get hit. But it's like, man, you know what I mean? Like Ronda Rousey doesn't like to get hit. Mm-hmm. And when she finally got hit, it was a big issue. And it's nice to see Mackenzie come in here, take some shots, eat them, and still push forward. And that's kind of encouraging, right? That tells me, okay, she's just not this, finesse jiu-jitsu person. She's gritty. She can get through punches. And she can, go off of that. So
yeah, and one thing I was live tweeting pretty much every fight, and the one thing I noticed in the third round, I tweeted this out. I liked how in the third round she had the IQ and she had the mindset of, I need to get the takedown to solidify this fight, and I'm still gonna go after it. It hasn't worked for me lately in the first two rounds, but I'm still going to have that drive to get the takedown and get this to the mat. And even when she was on the ground, she wasn't relaxing. She would say like, hey, Vixen, it was a split decision, so she knew it was a close fight, and she was looking for the rear naked choke. She was looking to finish. So that's one thing that, a lot of people you have to teach, but she has that IQ of get this fight to the mat, and I need to get a finish, and don't leave it up to the judges. I thought the drive and the willingness to put the nail in the coffin and solidify herself as the winner in a huge third round, which, she won 29-28 split decision to the judges. So that third round was really big, and if she might have not got that, who knows? But I really like that. For me, Mackenzie Dern, she's just got to polish up a few things. When it comes to, when you look at her against Joanna or Rose, you're going, you know what? She has to step up that striking game. But I do think maybe give her 2 to 3 more fights and see how the development is. And I think you really got a contender on her hands. So I'm gonna say 2 to 3 more fights. We can go, okay, is she really a true contender? Because don't forget, she's still got to verse like the Claudias of the world and the Jessica Andrades and women like that are very powerful and good strikers.
What I saw today, as far as her stand-up, is very raw. Right, she's very raw. I would say almost 3 to 5 fights. I would take it slow with her. Listen, you have a division where sometimes the UFC likes to push people if there's no stars at the top. I think in that division you have enough legit stars at the top. In your top 5 so legit that you don't need a pusher. I would just every fight a little tougher, and I would allow her. I would allow her to only do 2 to 3 fights. 2 to 3 fights. Give her the chance, like after a fight like this, to go back to the gym and work for 4 and 5 months. Get better. Because what you people are like, well, if she fights a lot, she'll get better. Yes, but she also needs time to grow. And sometimes when you jump straight into a training camp again, you don't have time to grow, right? Because a lot of training camps, you don't really learn much, right? It's get in shape, polish what you already have. That's what most training camps are. Work on your game plan.
Yeah, execute your game plan, how you're going to win the fight.
When people develop, it's that off time where they can just go to the gym. Don't have to necessarily get in cardio shape, lifting shape, where they can literally just go work on new techniques, gain new skills and new tools. So I think they need to give her the appropriate time to do that.
Yeah, I would definitely have to agree, and I think the future is really bright for her, and I think she's going to be on the fast track, and the UFC is going to want to give her enough time, but they're also going to want to kind of maybe hype her up a little bit and give her that push. So I think the future is bright for her. Overall, Fight Pass on prelims, phenomenal. Really liked it. First fight of the main card, Vieira versus Alpha Cat. Did not go the way that we predicted. I had a split, I believe maybe a split decision or a close decision. And I was really looking at this fight and I was like, man, this fight's going to the ground. It's who's going to get the takedowns, who's going to be on top and in the dominant control. Kat, it just didn't seem like she was really... It didn't seem like she had her groove. It just seemed like she wasn't comfortable in this fight. Even
it looked like a 1.5 year layoff.
Yeah.
Remember I talked about that, and I was kind of like, yeah, I don't know, 1.5. 1.5 is it could, she could come back kind of real primed, or she could come back very kind of. Some guys like Condit come back kind of lethargic. You know what I mean? Like they need that to get back in the groove.
Yeah, and the funny thing is like I was looking, I was like, this is not the Cat that we're used to, right? Like this is not. Her in that fight did not seem resemblance of what we've seen from her. Like, yeah, she's on a 3-fight losing streak. Of course, what do we always say? Look at the opponents. Ronda Rousey, Julian Pena, Vieira, all tough people. So she's not on the borderline of getting cut or anything like that. She's still one of the top women in the bantamweight division. But it just didn't seem like the same aggressive style that we were used to. Now, all credit to Vieira. Tall, lengthy, uses that jab good.
When she was in the cage against Ngannou, I was like, Ngannou's she's a big girl. Like when you saw her against Rousey and stuff, and Tate, and how strong she is, and to see this, to see Vieira be so much taller, so much bigger, and it seemed stronger too. You're like, wow, she's a problem.
Yeah, and you know what? She backed her up on the cage, and she was just popping her, and I was like, man, the striking is good. And then the takedown when she got caught, Cat in the takedown, and the control on the top, and she's just. Everything about her game is good, and on top of that we've seen, of course, they talk about the submission of Sarah McMahon. She has submissions on her record, but she didn't even really show that submission game. She was just in control the whole time. When it was a stand up, she was dominant. Using that jab really good, keeping her distance really well. I was very very impressed with Vieira. I think she's on the fast track to being one of these women that could be versing Amanda Nunes.
How legit of a contender do you think she is?
I think she's a very good, very legit contender. Right? Like to be honest, when I saw Kat as huge as a dog as she was, I was a little surprised, and I was like, well, Vieira really hasn't versed anybody on the level of Kat. Like, yeah, Sarah McMahon's a good wrestler, but Sarah McMahon, she's
been summed 3 times in a row.
She's not on that elite level. When you start talking about Kat, you go, okay, this is someone who's fought for the title. This is someone who's beat
the current champion.
Yeah, beat Amanda Nunes. So she's versed the best of the best. Vera right now is number 4. You look ahead of her, you got Pena. Pena's on a layoff. Of course, she had the birth of her daughter, so she's busy being, a mom right now. So she's put MMA to the side. And you got Raquel Pennington, who is fighting for the title. And then you got Holly Holm at number 1. So you go, man, does she verse someone like Holly Holm? Or will the UFC kind of do exactly what they did with Pennington, right? Raquel Pennington fought Miesha Tate at UFC 205 last November. It's been over a year. She's just been sitting there waiting, and they went, who's left to challenge Amanda Nunes? And they said, well, Pennington's really the only one, and that kind of waiting on the side kind of proved right. I think that might be a little dangerous game to play, because if you're Vieira, you look and you go, okay, Amanda Nunes beats Pennington. She could go up and verse Cyborg. Then I'm waiting for a longer time. So I would like for her, maybe she can get a fight against
Holly Holm.
I would like to see Holly Holm. I think I think she could win that fight if she was able to get it to the ground, and I think she would have the strength advantage and the reach advantage against Holly Holm, but I think that's a really hard fight. I don't know if she's going to sit on the side. I think if she wants to go for the gold right away, call out Holly Holm, get that fight. I think that's a winnable fight for her, and that makes her the undisputed number 1 contender.
Yeah, and see, for me, it's like, okay, if she wants to say that she's the undisputed number 1 contender, and that's, she wants to say that position should be hers and she's legit. I want to see her against that elite striker, because in her last few fights, I mean, has she ever even versed what you would call an elite striker? Not really. Kat Zingano.
Yeah. Sarah McMahon's not. Ashley Evans Smith is, she's all around, but she's not that elite technical striker like Holly Holm.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Well, no woman really is in that division.
But if she can pass that test, she's legit.
Oh, 100%.
If she passes that test, and she beats Holly Holm, even if she can't outstrike Holly Holm, but she can deal with that type of fighter and pass that test, she's legit to Amanda Nunes.
Yeah, and I would have to say it's a win-win situation for her, because if she loses the Holly Holm, she keeps her place, right? She's not going down after losing to the women in rank number 1. She's going to stay within the top 5. She's number 4 right now. If she wins, undisputed number 1 contender, she gets that fight against Amanda Nunes. Who knows if the Cyborg fight happens, if she can win, because then you have a clear-cut challenger for Amanda Nunes. I think Vieira, a big showing. I picked, Kat to win. Didn't go my way. I thought it was going to be close. Once again, by the way, for the judge that picked Kat winning, it was a split decision, 29-28. Look, I'm a big fan of Kat. I heard that and I went, no, it's not happening, right? The judging was a little wonky.
She didn't win 2. She didn't win 2.
No,
rounds.
She didn't win 2. But
I picked her 2.
I just want to say this, so I'm like, okay, well, when we look back on the scorecards over the years, know that, there was some judging that was a little wishy-washy.
Yeah, but, I bet on Kat Zingano.
Yeah.
Legit with my money, right? I bet on her, and I watched that fight, and I was like, you know what? She didn't win 2 rounds.
Yeah. I would have to agree. But I don't, Kat, she's still going to be a top 10. She's going to bounce back. It just wasn't what we used to. She's going to go in the gym working it. She'll be fine.
I just think, listen, they kept her position, and I don't know how some people feel like, oh, if you take a year's layoff, 2 years layoff, you should keep your position. I actually think you should slowly jump down. Because well,
she was number 5, now she's number 6, so technically a small jump.
True, but I'm saying, if you're off for 2 years, how many people that come off for 2 years or a year and a half, 3 years, whatever it is, and come back and versus a person just ahead of them or just behind them, and can still compete on that level? True,
but I think there's...
I know people are going to say, oh, well, GSP. Okay,
I think there's 2 cases here, because you look at someone who, a TJ Grant over the years, right? He was up there, didn't compete for a while, they just removed him completely. This is another scenario, because I think in the women's bantamweight division, there hasn't been any contenders really that have came up and said, we're going to take that spot from her, right? You look at Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz was a top 5 lightweight, I believe, at the Conor fight or something. Yeah. He was top 10. Now he's down to number 8, right? He was a 6 or a 5 before that. But just not competing,
I would agree with you.
You see Justin Gaethje come up, Barboza, Poirier, Kevin. So that's why he's dropped down. When you look at the women's bantamweight division, you look and you got Sarah McMahon at 8, Beth Correia at 9, Leslie Smith at 10, Aspen Ladd at 11. There's been no one really saying, okay,
it's that new blood, or it's someone who was around 10 that has gone on this huge fight streak.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, I would agree. That makes sense.
That's why I think she hasn't moved. But I think both women are on. Katzengano is going to bounce back, but Vieira really impressive performance. I think she should get that fight with Holly Holm if she really wants it. Stefan Struve, Andrei Arlovski. I looked at the odds of this fight, and I knew this fight was going to go over 1.5. But the thing I didn't expect was Andrei Arlovski to engage a lot in the clinch and his takedown work. Like I did not see Andrei Arlovski really getting the takedown this fight.
He's not known for that.
Exactly. And when he did, and when you kind of look at it, you go, well, does he really want to mess with Stefan Struve's jiu-jitsu? In this fight, I think Andrei Arlovski did exactly what he needed to do to win this fight. I think he had a right game plan. I think he exploited some weaknesses on Stefan Struve, and I think he just did enough. You know what? He got back on track. He beat Junior Albany, and of course, Stefan Struve's a bigger name than that. But you look at Andrei Arlovski, and you go, okay, maybe he can get back. He's the top 10 now. Rankings came out. He's number 10, so he's back on track, top 10. I mean, Andre was on a 5-fight losing streak, so to get 2 in a row is big for confidence. I think he had the right game plan right there, and I think good performance by Andrei Arlovski. To get to the road to the title, he's going to have to verse a lot more. I don't want to be disrespectful. I don't like doing that to any fighters, but a lot more game challengers. When you look at Stefan Struve, Stefan Struve, John Anik kind of said it when he can't establish a really good jab. And I just think Stefan Struve has so much talent. I would like to see Stefan Struve maybe go to another camp, get a different look, go to AKA, learn some really tough wrestling and some strong jab work. AKA is known for that. They utilize their jab perfectly in older fighters, and not only that, as strong wrestlers. I think if you can maybe get some more than just, the kicking game, the from the back jiu-jitsu, I think you would be a better overall fighter. I don't like to say this because I've been a long time fan of Stefan Struve, but I think he might need to tweak his game, possibly by going to another camp.
When I look at this fight, I will break down this fight for each fighter with 2 emojis. Okay? Emojis.
Shoot, buddy.
Okay? For Andrei Arlovski, he's getting the clapping hands.
Okay. Damn it.
Okay.
An underrated emoji.
Okay.
An underrated emoji.
And I'll tell you why. Because he got through it. He got through the... Was it pretty? Was it clean? Was it, as good as it could have been? No, but you got it done. And that's what you needed to do. That's what Andre needed to. Win by all costs. And he did it. He found holes and he won. Clapping hands. Stefan Struve gets the shaking my head emoji. And I'll tell you why. How many times... Okay, we talked about this in the preview to this last podcast. His last 2 fights, we've talked about this. Pre and post. How many times is he going to lose and just look bad? He looks like a fighter that's lost his identity. Would you not agree that he just doesn't have an identity? He's out there he's like, I'm going to throw hands, I'm going to throw kicks. I'm good at jiu-jitsu, but I can't...
I think... Here's my thing with Stefan Struve. I think he shows flashes, like when he got that... I forget who was against, but he had that Darce choke victory a couple fights ago, and then when, he got the elbow knockouts of Bigfoot Silva, you look and you go, man, this is a guy, if he pieces it all together... no one has the damn reach like him.
But how many times are we going to talk about this?
I have to agree. That's why I make the point, and I get what you're saying. He has flashes where he looks like an absolute beast, and he's stringing it together, and then he has a fight like this where it's a little lackluster, and you're like, man, it's so... It reminds me of the Katy Perry song. You're hot and you're cold, right? He's so... I'm not a singer, but...
For sure don't sing that anymore. Yeah.
But, he looks so good sometimes. Yeah, why did I do that? He looks so good sometimes, and then sometimes he looks like against the Volkov, didn't look good and got finished because of it. Andrei Arlovski got taken down, didn't really have any points where he had a really strong, significant offensive game. And it's frustrating.
Okay.
You're hot and you're...
Yeah. If I'm Stefan Struve, I'm taking time off. Taking a year off. I'm going to a boxing gym. link up with Freddie Roach. You need to do something like that. And I am learning the fundamental basics of how to box. Jab, 1-2, crosses, head movement, how to use range, how to use distance in a boxing capacity. Because I think his leg kicks are good, but he doesn't know how to use his hands properly. Learn the fundamentals of boxing. Step 2. Learn how to stop a takedown for sure. I mean, when Andre's taking you down, you gotta ask yourself. You gotta recognize that there's a problem. Like, listen, if Daniel Cormier is throwing you around the wing, or Stipe is grabbing you and taking you down. Okay, they're just elite dudes. But when Andre's doing it, there's got to be like. If Conor McGregor was taking Eddie Alvarez down, wouldn't Eddie Alvarez go, damn?
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
You know what I mean? Like, that guy should not be taking me down, right? So, I don't know. I personally don't know. Haven't been. I don't see Stefan Struve's training. I don't know what he's doing with Henry Hoof in that gym. But my instincts is Henry Hoof's a striking guy. Stefan Struve likes striking. He does have jiu-jitsu, but it just seems like he's doing this Dutch kickboxing style that I don't know if he hasn't perfected or whatever, but he needs to get better with his hands. Fundamentally, he does. Get to link up with a Freddie Roach.
You talk about wrestling and like yes, it comes from a defensive perspective, but I'm thinking offensively too. I'm going, man, if Stefan Struve can get takedowns, if he can generate that offense, plus with the jiu-jitsu game, such long limbs on the ground, and that works for some guys like incredible, he could literally be a threat. Because he has great jiu-jitsu. He does. Off the bottom, he uses those long limbs. We've seen, we've seen the Darce chokes. Mm-hmm. We've seen the arm bars. We've seen the arm triangles. All this stuff.
What do you think his biggest need is? I think it's technical boxing.
I think so too, because he possesses power. Like, we've seen Stefan Struve knock out a lot of people. Like, I know this is ages ago. It has nothing relevant now. But Stefan Struve did knock out Stipe Miocic. He did knock out guys like Antonio Silva. He did, knock out Dave Herman. Say what you want, those are in the past. But he does possess the power. I think he just needs to put the technical striking together, and he would be a phenom. Look, I'm a fan of Stefan Struve. I really am. I just think there's a couple things he needs to do to make sure it's. I don't want to sing again. I don't want to sing Katy Perry again. I just want him to string it together so I never have to sing.
I don't even think that's Katy. I don't even think he's hot and cold. Cold and cold.
No, then you can't say that, buddy.
When's he been hot?
Do you forget the 2011?
Name his last 5 fights. Who they're against, and if he's won or lost.
I think this is the definition of hot and cold. Jared Rosal, he lost decision. Cold. Antonio Silva, he
just lost to Andre.
Okay. Cold.
You just lost to
Volkov. Cold. And then I'm not even going to pronounce his last name because I'll butcher it.
Who is it?
204. You can read this up here on the screen, homie. Daniel
check. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so he
Darce choke in the
won
second.
by submission.
I watched that fight.
He beat Antonio Silva, who's basically got a senior citizen card, and then you lost to Jared Rosal.
But this is what I'm saying.
I mean, come on.
This is what I'm saying. He's hot sometimes. Darce choke finish.
Dude,
TKO finish.
His last legit win is what?
Daniel Darce choke and then Antonio Silva knockout. Are they against the most game contenders? No, but what I'm trying to say is he's at that level where he can beat the guys he should. And where you
Those
think
guys aren't top 10 though. The guys he's won against.
I would agree.
That's a big problem, man.
I know.
Especially in the heavyweight. We're not talking about the welterweight division here.
Yeah.
We're talking about the heavyweight division. You can't beat anyone inside the top 10.
I just think he needs to just polish up his game. Don't forget, he's only 30. It's not like he's pushing 40 here.
I know, but he's had a lot of fights, man.
I know. That's true. That's true. I think, look, I'll always be behind Stefan Struve. I'll always cheer for the guy. I just think I want to see the best Stefan Struve every time we're out there, and I literally think if he can fix a couple things, we're literally looking at a contender, because the heavyweight's not deep. If you can come, learn some new stuff, come back in, get some finishes. We've seen him do it before in 2011, 2012. He's one of the biggest contenders coming up in that division.
Call up Freddie Roach. He works with MMA fighters. Call him up. Learn how to box.
I think it would be deadly if he could utilize that jab.
Could you imagine if he could throw clean straight strikes with head movement, and he learned distance control? Holy smokes!
No one could mess with him.
No one can mess with him, especially on the feet. And he knows how to kick. But it's. That's what you hope for. But I've hoped Stefan Struve could do this type of things, as far as the boxing game, polishing up on it for 3-4 fights, and it just hasn't happened though. We'll see.
Yeah. But it is what it is, man. Let's digress a little bit. Let's move on to the next fight. Sean O'Malley versus Andre Sukumtoth. I think Sean O'Malley did a good job in this fight. I think he showed flashes. I think he got a little bit of backing behind him, which is what the UFC wanted. I think, post-fight interview, very funny. My one problem with this is Sukumtoth. I've seen people say it before, so, I'm probably, saying stuff that we've probably already seen all over social media and podcasts and radio shows, and Twitter. Why the takedown in the third? Sean O'Malley's on one leg. And you go for a takedown? I will never understand these fighters that go for takedowns when they have... I see it all the time. I see guys rock a person, and the guy's backing up, or they're against the cage. And I don't know if it's instinct to go for a takedown, but I'm like, man, if you just stand there and maybe throw a combination before you go for a takedown, you might have knocked the guy out. And in this case, I think Sukumtoth should have just maybe tried to kick that leg from under and got on top of him. Just try to do something. But the takedown, I don't agree with. In the end, Sean O'Malley won. 2 judges gave him 29-27. I didn't really see a 10-8 in that. And then one judge gave him 29-28. I thought good performance by Sean O'Malley. Flashy. People getting behind him. I had one of my buddies text him and say, man, O'Malley's dope. Doesn't really watch UFC, but he'll be watching O'Malley next time because they're building that hype. I think the UFC did a good job building him up too.
Yeah,
I think good performance.
He's a unique guy, good performance. He clearly was tagging Sukumtoth in the first 2 rounds. It was looking like he was almost going to finish him at some points. Yeah, 3rd round. Sean O'Malley's thinking he's got a broken foot. At one point, he gets up from Sukumtoth's takedown, and he threw a jab, hopping on one leg, and then Sukumtoth takes him down, and you're thinking whoa, he just because sometimes, okay, I get it. You're getting hit, your brain's scrambled. You think, okay, the takedown's worked, the ground and pound's worked. I'll go there again, right? But then he clearly sees the guy hopping on one leg, and it's he for sure sees that homeboy's gonna start throwing jabs and straight rights on one leg. He literally can't move but jump up a few inches off the ground. What does he do? Oh, he takes what? Huh? Because I understand sometimes you've been hit a lot and you feel like you can do good on the ground, so you go for the takedown, right? You think, okay, I'm getting pieced up. Why would I, even though I'm down 2 rounds, I'm getting pieced up and go for the takedown? Still doesn't make sense, but I understand why fighters in that situation would do that. You're right. It's scrambled. It's fast paced. But homeboy clearly saw that could not put. He was jumping on one leg. I don't know how much more clear that gets. I see someone jumping on one leg in a stand up fight. I'm going, okay,
yeah. He should have.
He literally you're fighting a heavy bag that can throw a jab back at you at that point.
But overall, Sukumtoth, that was late in the fight. Maybe he's just thinking get the takedown. Maybe he thought it was closer than it was on the judges' scorecard. There's a lot of things.
Oh, no, I
know a lot of people are criticizing, but it's easy to criticize watching, right?
Yeah, no, I understand. That's what I kind of said, in the heat of the fight, things happen.
Yeah.
But when you clearly see, unless he's blind and we don't know about it, he clearly saw him jumping on one leg.
Yeah.
Kind of an indication to keep him up. Like, there were times where O'Malley was grimacing on the ground, and I was like, man, if Sukuntar literally just gets up off of him and motions to the ref to allow Sean O'Malley up, and Sean O'Malley can't walk,
the ref might call it.
He might call it.
Yeah.
Seriously, he might call, like, on some Brett Primus Michael Chandler situation. Like, I was like, man, if like there's one point where he was Sean O'Malley was against Cage and he was grimacing. I'm like, he just stands up, walks to his corner, tells the ref to get Sean O'Malley up, and Sean O'Malley can't take a step. The ref will call it. It's done. It's over.
Yeah.
Round 3 TKO.
Yeah.
And he didn't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I know what you're saying.
Right? That could be the easiest win of your life.
That's what I was thinking too. But it is what it is, man. In the book, Sean O'Malley gets the W. I think good overall performance before that injury. The leg didn't come out broken. Doesn't look good if you saw his Instagram, people. You know, his foot's all swollen.
Yeah, it's pretty swollen.
In the end, he's going to bounce back, and the UFC's going to ride Sean O'Malley the hype train. I do have to say this, though, good performance, but just quick note, we were talking about it. It will be interesting to see Sean O'Malley's game when he versus an elite wrestler in, you know, the bantamweight division, rather. So that'll be interesting to see, but overall good performance. He's a young guy in the game. I think the UFC is going to give him. You know what? I think the UFC.
I think he's a decent prospect.
Yeah,
I wouldn't call him like a blue chip.
I think the UFC might run with him though, a little bit.
They're gonna run with him, but from a fans, from an MMA experts here looking at him, you definitely see some holes when it comes to ground game. Could some elite wrestlers, take him down and pound him out? Yeah, you could see that. He's a good prospect. Take your time. Don't rush him up too much. They might want to do that because he's a very unique character, and you can sell uniqueness. Because listen, Dana might not like working with the Diazes, but they have a aura and a character about them, right? They don't like media. They smoke weed. They throw up signs and FUs, and that's related.
I love it.
You're right. People love that man.
I know what you're saying.
Like when Dana and Nick Diaz and Nate Diaz were doing all that stuff, and he's like, "Yeah, they're not worth this." They're like, man, people love it. You don't understand the following those guys have.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think Sean O'Malley can have the same thing. He's a little bit like, F it, I don't care, wild guy. And you can sell that.
I think people like that. MMA experts, can we dub ourselves that?
I would think so.
Well, we should be experts because we did both pick Brian Ortega to win versus Frankie Edgar.
Damn right.
Now, shout out to anybody who had Brian Ortega knocking off Frankie in the first.
Yeah, for sure didn't have that.
show me your parlay winnings. Like, let's go. Show me your
I
bet
did
winnings.
bet on him though, and won money.
Yeah, well, we picked Ortega by decision, and the reason why I thought he uses his length really good. And I thought, if this gets to the ground, I think Ortega might possess some problems. The thing was, this didn't even get to the ground, man. And one thing I loved about this finish, I went back and watched this finish probably 1,000 times. Not really, but you know what I'm saying. Just because I love...
We watched it at least 6.
Yeah, almost 1,000. But I love when Frankie Edgar threw the jab and he came over top of the elbow to counter. It's just like... That was so beautifully timed, getting Frankie stepping in and he's dodging the shot and he sees that opening and throws it right on the button. He cracks Edgar, and I'm going, okay, we've never seen Frankie get finished, but we've seen Frankie rock, right? He's Rocky, right? He's going to recover. But the one thing I liked is the calmness and the patience that Brian Ortega had, and he didn't rush in there like a banshee, didn't go for a flying knee or something crazy. He walked up there, picked the shot, got the single collar tie. And the one thing I loved about this is during the finish, you saw him land an uppercut, some inside punches, and he landed a few uppercuts. But he took a step back, still had the hand on the back of the head of Edgar at one point, and the final uppercut, he stepped back and threw his whole hips into it, generated that power. And that's how you saw Frankie Edgar literally leave his feet, did like a jump and hit the mat, is because he had the IQ to step back, throw the uppercut with velocity with the hips and just knock them out. And Brian Ortega, whew, people had him by submission, decision. I don't think we realized Brian Ortega really had the knockout power to do that. Something we'd never seen anybody do to Frankie Edgar. One of the most impressive performances I think I've seen in a while.
Well, listen, there was a lot of people like on the UFC pre-show and stuff were picking Edgar. And what I try to do, and listen, I fall into this sometimes too. These UFC Tonight and some of these shows they fall prey to the same thing. Is we like to look at a guy, what he's done, how he's overcome things, and we like to base our picks off of that. Okay? And with Edgar, you're going, man, he's got good wrestling, he's striking, his chin, he's durable, he's been in these tough situations, he's won titles, fought for titles, versus legends and he is a legend himself, right? Don't think you could argue with any of those things. But when I heard this fight and did my prediction and why I picked Ortega, it was the same thing. Reach, length. Can Frankie really take him down and survive on the ground without getting caught? I mean, homeboy Ortega, to me, he subbed Cub Swanson twice. Same move. Huh? What? That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. So when I see that, I'm going, well, Frankie can't take him down and survive. Not for 5 rounds. I mean, not for 3 rounds. Hell, not even for a round. And then you saw it in the fight. Frankie did a half-ass takedown. And I don't know if it was just he did it, realized it wasn't going to work, and then kind of backed out a bit. Or if it was just kind of like a fake shot. But maybe it was like a minute or so into the round, and Ortega almost got his neck. And I was like, whoa. Because if you're Frankie, you're like, whoa, okay. Let's for sure not do that again.
The thing with Ortega, man, like, you shoot, and the first thing he's thinking about is how can I lock on, like, a choke? Well, how can I go for the guillotine? He's defending it at the same time, but just like Frankie went in, and he snapped at that neck really quick. He didn't fully get it, of course, because Frankie backed out. But there was a minute where you were going, oh, and then he got out, and you're like, whoa, that was a close one. But I know what you're saying. Yeah,
after that happened, I think Frankie was like, okay. So what you and me talked about is that if Frankie shot, it would be dangerous. That was true. Okay? And then the striking, listen, Frankie's at every disadvantage. I was listening to these MMA people, oh, Frankie's going to, he's great on the feet, comes in, and I'm thinking like, he's at every disadvantage on the feet possible. I don't know what these people are talking about.
I think
distance, range.
I think they're going. He's really good at getting combinations, and as soon as he hits, he's really good at stepping the side and not being hit. But you got to hit the
guy.
This is what I was saying. I had Brian Ortega maybe using more kicks up the middle to create the distance, like a lot of people use, to create distance to kind of stop Frank Edgar from rushing him there so much. He didn't use that a lot, but
he puts that jab out there, and he takes angles and step backs, which, I mean, Frankie threw a lot of punches, but name 1 or 2 that really landed clean. I mean, there wasn't a lot that... Remember that first fight? I was going, oh, yeah, like Frankie's jumping in and out, but nothing's landing clean. No. Ortega's very patient. Put that jab out there. He'll get that range. He'll let you be active, but he'll find that moment, right? He's not a real active stand-up striker, right? Mm-hmm. He's not super active. He's not usually going to be the first guy to throw the punch either. And that's what you saw in the fight, right? So, but he timed it up perfectly, man. Just boom. And that elbow to the chin, and Frankie didn't see it coming, and he got stunned. And like you said, Ortega, listen, when you get a guy hurt, there's usually 2 approaches. One is you're running like a banshee,
and you go for broke. One problem against that there's one thing that beats that: a good wrestler can take you down off your being aggressive, throwing hooks, Frankie's a good wrestler, so Ortega did the right thing, not run in there like a banshee. Take your time, pick your shots, because when you notice when someone gets hurt, their defense is not clean, right? Their hands are up, they're wobbling. Sometimes they're trying to punch back. They're not protecting themselves in the most legit style, right? They're scrambled. They're seeing 3 of you. They're just trying to block and trying to put up things, which means what? Which means there's holes
in their striking defense. So if you're patient enough and you set things up and you take the openings that are there that they present you, because there will be openings, you can hurt someone even worse with one punch than you can with 5 to 8 rabbit punches that half of them miss, right? So he was correct on staying patient. And then, the last uppercut punch, he was pulling Frankie's head in, stepping back, and then he threw the hip and the uppercut into him, sent him flying. And I personally think when the ref saw Frankie get hit with the upper and he was coming down, they probably should have stopped it at that point. But
the referee did a good job.
It was soon after, but the way he hit Frankie, and when I saw Frankie leave the ground, I was like, "Oh, it's done." But it was crazy, man. You and me were jumping up and down. It was just. Yeah. Just to beat Frankie Edgar, I thought he would do, but to knock him out
in the
first
round.
Guy in the first round. No, okay, he did it in the first round, but the first guy to ever stop Frankie Edgar, that was more impressive to me. Because I saw situations where he would decision him, he would sub him. Saw those. Didn't see a knockout. Did not see a knockout of Frankie Edgar. And that's not to say I thought Ortega would win the striking matchup, but I didn't see him knocking him out. And that's what was kind of... Because I didn't think Ortega had the power, and I thought Frankie's defense was too clean. Plus, he's got a chin like granite. I mean, no one's finished him, for God's sakes. So just didn't see that. So that was more shocking to me and more like hype to me, was that he actually knocked out Frankie Edgar. And right after that fight happened, watched the post-fight interview. I said to you, man, Ortega Holloway, holy shit. How legit is that fight going to be?
That's...
Oh my God.
Amazing. That's such a hard fight to... I'm going to have to do my homework, break that one down. If you're
Holloway... Because I picked Holloway to beat Edgar 10 times out of 10. Now I'm like, oh, man. Because
Brian Ortega... different things.
Brian Ortega does not have a weak point.
And the one thing Max would have had over Frankie is he's a longer fighter. And in this, you don't have that with Brian Ortega.
He has no reach advantage. He has no height advantage. No strength advantage. And Holloway does. He's probably a slicker striker, but we've seen Ortega take advantage and pick his shots. And Holloway for sure doesn't want to get to the clinch or the ground with Ortega.
No.
So interesting fight, man.
It is. And that's supposed to go down International Fight Week, UFC 226. If that's the co-main event with Stipe and DC, ugh.
Well, I mean, there's other fights that are rumored on that. By the way, that is a day or 2 days after my birthday.
UFC 226 is 2 days after your birthday. UFC 223 is 2 days after my birthday. So good birthday weekend.
Yeah,
good birthday.
Gonna be sick.
Let's talk about the victory of Cris Cyborg, man. Didn't take long. Only trouble she was in is being pushed up against the cage. No threat. Lands that first punch. Yana gets, shaken up. Tries to do what she can. She went in there. She fought. She's brave. Let's just talk about what's next for Cris Cyborg. Because the fight, it broke down itself.
Well, I mean, we knew the striking. There's going to be a disadvantage. We knew the power. I mean, Cris Cyborg hit her with one overhand right.
Yeah, she was.
And Yana was like, yeah, not striking. Bam, takedown. Yeah, which she is a big, strong girl, and you saw her put Cyborg against the fence, but you can't do that for 5 rounds against Cris Cyborg, because at one point she will get loose and she will put hands on you again. It's just, but props to her for stepping up, man.
Yeah,
there's a lot of women in the UFC, high caliber, that would not do that fight.
So I tweeted this out, put it on social media. I said the UFC is going to see what to do with Cyborg after UFC 224. If Amanda Nunes comes out relatively unscathed and she comes out looking good, they'll do the fight Amanda Nunes, Cris Cyborg. Possibly. Go ahead.
I listened to Dana White's post interview at the press conference. Would not be surprised if they scrapped Amanda Nunes Raquel.
Really?
Would not be surprised.
Really?
Would not be.
But then they got to find a main event for 224, and then the same
Yes, I
situation
know.
at 222, like they were.
Yes, but I'm just saying. You just hearing it first because. Okay.
That would be a low blow to Kel Pennington. That would be like a punch.
Yeah,
in the gut,
but there's a bigger fight to be had. Because here's the thing. Cris Cyborg now needs Amanda Nunes. Has to be her next fight. Has to be.
You could look at Megan Anderson. No, time out. Because I was having this. I saw a bunch of people online. I was talking to them. And does Megan Anderson deserve the chance of Cris Cyborg? Yes.
Does she?
She's a true 145er. There's nobody left.
But who would you beat?
I agreed, but Amanda Nunes still has her division to worry about.
Just because you're a 145-pound woman doesn't make you the. There's way more legit 135-pound women with more skill, more UFC experience, more MMA experience that could give better fights to Cris Cyborg than I could go get 165-pound women, 155-pound women. Well, they're bigger than Cyborg. No. They have to have skill. I'm not saying that Megan Anderson does not have skill, but I'm saying who have you beat to present a challenge?
If you're looking at this from a technical, like this is a featherweight belt, so maybe.
Well, then build a division.
I have to. That's one of the things they're not doing that they need to do. Is if Megan Anderson was actually like ranked number 1 and they actually had a ranking system, then you could be like, okay.
Doesn't Vidica not have 145?
Yes, they do.
Oh. Well, hold up. I don't know the relationship between the UFC and Vidica, but it seems like there's partial ownership, or I don't know, or they seem to have a very good relationship. I'll put it like that. So, can you not?
A lozenge or something?
Oh no, I'm a little sick today.
Okay, fair enough.
Got the cold from the kid.
Okay.
So can you not pay Invidico or take some of the Invidico girls and build your division? The only reason why you're not doing that is because you don't think the Invidico 145-pound division is legit enough.
Well, Megan Anderson is the Invidica champ, so
yeah, but who is she beat? Right? Like
I know what you're saying. Amanda Nunes.
No. I think. Listen, I think Megan Anderson is legit as hell for 145. But would you do her over Amanda Nunes? I think Amanda Nunes is lighter, sure, but to me, Amanda Nunes she has more skills to cause more problems. Right? When I'm looking at Amanda Nunes, I see a long, slick, powerful striker. Man, that kind of bodes well. Because if you can't strike with Cris Cyborg with some sort of power or length, I don't see the point, right? Like, I mean, sure, you could try to get a wrestler in there that would wrestle the hell out of her, but
I agree with what you're saying.
Tough sledding.
But like Megan Anderson, she's versed like the Charmaine Tweets, the Piggy Morgan, I understand what you're saying.
Oh, and she's got a flying A grade.
Yeah, but I understand. Amanda Nunes and Cris Cyborg is the more complexing matchup. But if you're doing this, for literally a featherweight title, you have to make a case for Megan Anderson. As a fan, if I'm sitting there and if someone said pay $50, what do you want to be the main event, Cris Cyborg or Megan Anderson, or Amanda Nunes or Cris Cyborg? I'm going with Amanda Nunes, Cris Cyborg. That's a super fight.
But why?
Because Amanda Nunes has more name to fame. She's a champion. She beat
more legit girls.
Yeah, exactly. And she has a belt and she's the champion and she's been on top and defended it a couple times. That's why.
Okay, so we're on the same page though.
Yeah, I agree, but I'm saying you can't just discount Megan Anderson. And this is what, back to my original point, if Amanda Nunes somehow comes out of the fight unscathed with Kel Pennington, they'll do Cyborg versus Amanda.
I think they'll scrap that.
I don't think so. I think that's too far-fetched.
I've heard a few rumors.
Who's your source?
I've heard a few rumors.
Wiki?
No. And then I listened to Dana, and he seems...
And Dana's always honest with the fans.
Well... No, but he didn't even say it. It's just the way he was talking about it, I was like, wouldn't be surprised, man. Because if you want to make Cyborg a star, can you keep handing her girls from Avitica coming up at 145 or 135 or 135ers from the UFC that aren't champions, or 145 women that aren't in the UFC and don't have a name. If you truly want to build it up to that star, or to be that superstar woman that you want her to be in the UFC, you have to start delivering her the big fights. Right? What makes a great superstar? There's a bunch of things. But one of the best things to making a superstar is giving them an opponent where you go, they might lose. Right? Floyd Mayweather has built a career on, that guy might beat him. That guy might beat him. No. This guy's the guy to beat him. Right? John Jones has a resume that looks hella good because every time you stepped in there, you went, this guy. He was a former Pride champion. He'll beat him. This guy will beat him. DC will beat him. He has the wrestling. Right? And every time you beat a guy with a legit resume and a legit fighter, your star grows and grows. Right? Look at Conor. Knocks off this guy. Knocks off Chad. Knocks off Aldo. Knocks off Eddie. Fights Diaz. Boom, 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 boom. That's why he's a star. I mean, there's other, variables, whatever. But that's why you're a star. Right? And will people keep, and another thing on the business side, will people keep buying pay-per-views to see Cyborg murk some chick that they don't really know? Now you can say, okay, well, Megan Anderson, the hardcores know her. I know her. But if you want to make Cris Cyborg a superstar that casual fans will tune in to watch her fight, you need to hype her up. She needs to be the legit one. She needs to fight someone that other people go, oh. Because if you say, listen, Amanda Nunes is fighting Cris Cyborg. She's the UFC bantamweight champion. Oh, and she beat Ronda. Oh, okay, I know who Ronda is. Right. You have a line of transition where they can go, she beat Ronda. Oh, she's the champ. Oh, she's gonna fight Cyborg. I know Cyborg. She's sick. Okay, we got something here. That's the big fight. So when I say like they might scrap the Nunes fight, because I think Dana White's right now when he looks at the women's division, I think his biggest priority is make Cris Cyborg a superstar.
I would have to agree.
How do we do that?
Give her Amanda Nunes and build it up.
That's why I think they'll scrap the fight.
I don't think they will, so. Anyways, we can agree to disagree. Let's talk a little news and rumors. Oh, first of all, overall, 222, I thought fantastic card, top to bottom.
For the prelims on, great card.
Great card. Yeah.
When you consider that this card a month ago was almost scrapped.
Yeah, people were talking about it being changed at fight night,
Yeah.
and people came through and they performed, so I think overall good. We're on the road, we got a couple fight nights, and then we're on to UFC 223, which is mind-bogglingly good, so that's going to be sick as well.
Yeah, 223, the main and co are just ridiculous.
Yeah. Let's talk about a little bit of 155 on UFC 223, because Dana White came out and said that as soon as the bell rings between Khabib and Tony Ferguson, Conor McGregor's no longer the champ. He's stripped as soon as that bell rings. I think that's, it can be read no other than that's just a threat to Conor that he better come talk to the UFC before that date so they can make it, so they can go, so Dana can go, well, he'll fight whoever he'll sign. Whether that will happen or not, no. Look, we both come from Irish heritage, Conor McGregor fans. We have aunts and uncles that love him. He's got to get going, man.
But who cares? You think he cares?
He doesn't care.
Do the fans care?
Well, but do you think...
the minute he goes, I want to fight again, he fights the champion of the featherweight division or the lightweight division, and people aren't going to look at Tony and Khabib. Well, some people. Some people will look at them and go, that's the real champion. But when Conor comes back and fights whoever wins the main event at 223, I'm going, okay, Conor's still the guy. He's still the championship. Listen, Conor could fight... he could fight anyone in the lightweight division and people would pay.
Yeah.
And do you not think of him as still the legit featherweight champion?
Actually, no.
No one's beat him, though?
True, but...
Okay, what do you think of John Jones? What do you think of John Jones?
I don't think John Jones is the champ.
You know?
Do you know, I've been saying this for you. You know why?
If he versed DC again, who would be the favorite?
Are we talking about... Before I want to see that fight, I want to see if John Jones can pass all the tests.
Okay,
I know, but I know people make jokes. There's memes around there, but in all seriousness, I know DC calls it a loss, but I can't think of. I don't even think that John Jones is the greatest of all time. To me, I want nothing
cloudiness.
I want nothing positive for the guy. I hope he comes back, and I hope he, has a great career. I really do. He's got some USADA hearings and stuff like that.
But do you not think he's the champion in lightweight?
DC 100%.
Then why would people favor him in a fight? Why would Vegas favor John Jones if they fought again?
Because here's the thing.
He beat him.
But this is two arguments.
No one's beat him.
This is two arguments, though. You're going, do I think John Jones, if he comes back and versus DC, can he beat DC? I thought he was the favorite going into the second fight with DC. Now, here's the thing that you think about when you talk about legit champs. John Jones popped multiple times
but
against
let's
DC.
say he passes.
Well, he's the greatest of all time. No one has a question. But that's a hypothetical world. We're living in a reality where I don't think he's a legit champ because DC's sitting there knocking every contender off in a USADA era. And we got John Jones over here that's popping nonstop in a USADA era. So, in my opinion, that gives... If you got a cloud over you being a legit champion,
to kind of go back to Conor. John Jones might have been a bad example.
Terrible example.
Because of the steroids and shit.
I know what you're saying with Conor and the featherweight, but here's the thing.
Or the light. No one's beat him.
The light, I would have to say yeah, because that's division in. But when it comes to feather, I'm looking at...
You don't think Conor McGregor, if he said, I want Max Holloway tomorrow, who's the favorite? Who's the champ?
Conor McGregor.
Who are you picking?
Conor McGregor. But I can't think of a guy who has a title in one division and he literally left that division and moved up
but no
as
one
still
beat
the champ.
him. No one beat him.
I agree with that. I understand that. But I'm just telling you my opinion. Like, you're telling me my opinion. I know,
wrong. But I'm just saying. I don't know how you can.
Because I see Max Holloway dominating. Right? If you had the title bouncing around from Jose to Max to, like the light heavy was in like the 2005
but Conor's beat Jose, who he's beat, and he beat him.
That was a long time ago for Max, though. Max Holloway from
win's a win.
Oh my god. Okay, then Stefan Struve, the baddest man on the planet.
No, don't. Who said that, by the way?
Your boy Roy Nelson.
Jesus Christ.
No, but hey, if you're taking that, you gotta. Anyways, back to the point. You always do this. You always get me off track. Start talking about Darren Till.
I'm just saying. Actually, we played UFC 3 the other day.
Oh god.
And I knocked Jason out. You were
Kamaru Usman.
I was Darren Till. Knocked him with a left high kick. But anyways, that's beyond the point.
Anyways,
going back to McGregor, I think to me it doesn't matter if they strip him. He's the biggest name. He could come back, and he is the main event for either title. Doesn't matter if he's the champion or the not, quote unquote.
I would have to agree.
And he'd be the favorite in both.
Do you think Conor would sit there and be like, okay, I don't see where Conor would be okay with someone taking the belt away from him?
Well, I mean, he's still they keep the actual belts.
I know what you're saying, but
okay, the title gets stripped. Okay. I still think of him as the featherweight champion.
But I'm talking from him personally. Conor McGregor's such like he's driven to be the best.
Sure, he's not going to like it.
But do you think
what's he going to do?
Do you think that's? I think that's going to maybe motivate him to come back a little faster.
Well, nope.
Really?
Nope. They did it to him on the featherweight, and did that work? No, he went and fought Floyd Mayweather in a boxing match.
Here's the thing with Conor, man. He like just. He says he wants to get back in there.
He wants to do it his way.
But his way is August, July, September. Like, come on, man.
But why?
It's almost been a year since Floyd. You said you wanted to fight again.
I don't know why the UFC should even care about this, though. Listen, we talked about this. We're not in the meeting rooms of Dana and Conor. We don't know what's been said. I mean, Conor seemed pretty ready. Dana White confirmed that he wanted to fight Edgar and jump into the main event at UFC 222. So it's not like he's on the couch not training. He must be coming back soon. But it seems, to me, more like Dana wants this, Conor wants this, and they're feuding more than McGregor's just not willing to fight.
What would you do? I just had a crazy scenario in my head. What if Conor came back for like International Fight Week and he was versus like GSP? I could see Conor, to be honest, I could see Conor coming back and taking a money fight like that rather than taking Tony Khabib.
No, well, first of all, GSP isn't fighting for another year. I promise you that.
But a fight like that, like a money fight like that, I don't know who else is in there.
No, I don't think he'll do that.
No? Okay.
No. And I'll tell you why. First of all, fighting a GSP, I mean, you'd have a guy who fought once in featherweight versus a guy who's fought in middleweight at one point. We're talking a 4-division jump. But, that's crazy. Second of all, I don't think GSP wants to fight that much. Conor McGregor, I think he's going to take a legit fight. I think he's taking the winner of Khabib Ferguson. I really do. I know Nate Diaz fights out there and whatever, but I think that fight's going to happen after his next fight, which I think is going to be versus Khabib and Tony Ferguson. Listen, if you're Khabib or you're Tony Ferguson, do you really care that this is for the title? Yeah, but not really. I mean, it's a messed up situation all around because Dana's so he's not telling the media, the fans, anything about his conversations with Conor, basically, except he's coming back at some point, and we're not stripping him. This is for the title. Now we are stripping him once the fight starts. I mean, he hasn't talked about. Conor's saying stuff, his camp saying stuff, then Dana's saying stuff. They don't seem like they're on the same page, but they do, but they don't. I don't know. Who knows? If Dana White gave a straight answer to the media, I can figure this out in 2 minutes.
Yeah, but
when's Conor fighting? How's the contract negotiations going? And if he give you a straight answer, okay, then I can give you a straight answer, Jason, on this podcast. About if they should strip him and if you should feel bad about it. But because I don't know truly when Conor's coming back, and I don't know what the reason is. Because if Conor's if he's just waiting because he wants to wait, okay, strip him, he shouldn't be the champion. But if it's because him and Dana White are butting heads, I feel like, no, you shouldn't strip him then. Do you know what I mean?
Well, you should strip him just from inactivity.
But why?
You can't sit there forever with the title.
If Dana's not giving him the right fight, the money.
Yeah, but we all know Conor's going to be asking for a lot.
Dana's done this, though. He has done this before.
But to that, I go, the right fight is the winner of 223, and the money, damn, if in the MMA game, if you're making even 20 mil, feel lucky. You're not going to make boxing Floyd money. Put that aside. That's unrealistic. Can the UFC pay that? Oh yeah, you should be. You're a top star. You should get a couple. You should get at least 10 million if you're the top star. But they don't do that. The fight should be the winner of this. This should be for an interim title, which Tony Ferguson has, and then the winner fights Conor. Conor should agree to that.
And Conor should not be stripped.
Conor should not be stripped. But the problem is, Conor probably isn't agreeing to those. If I had to say whose side...
If he was fighting on 226, Conor McGregor is fighting on 226 versus this, he should not be stripped.
Agreed.
Anything later, he should be stripped.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
If he's not...
If I'm Dana White, I would go to him and say that. I would say exactly that.
But that's
if you're not fighting before July 7th, you're getting stripped. If you're fighting on that date, we'll keep you as the champion. Yes. Simple as that.
That's why I'm saying.
But at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. Because when Conor McGregor fights, whoever the winner is, the people are going to still view him as the champion.
And it's probably going to be for that title.
Yeah.
Nice.
At the end of the day, it really doesn't matter.
That's why I'm saying this is just a threat from Dana White. This is Dana going, we'll strip you if you don't if you don't say you're going to take the winner of this fight, blah, 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 blah. Because if Conor comes back and says, okay, I'll take the winner of this fight, whoever wins stands in the octagon, they bring Conor in with the other belt, we're unifying the titles, International Fight Week, whatever it is. And they do that. But that's what I'm saying. Dana saying the strip is just a little threat out there to say, Conor, you better come talk to me before April 7th, or else technically you will be stripped. It's bluff. Who knows what really goes on? We hear things from the UFC that never comes out to pan out. Life goes on.
And, okay, so I would agree with that. To kind of branch off on this, the UFC needs a specific written guideline rules for champions being stripped, for champions being inactive, and for interim titles. They need rules. Because it's basically right now off Dana's what he thinks is right. Right? Like, you know, we could go back to the Dominic Cruz situation and, you know, if a guy hasn't fought in a year and a half or to 2 years, I don't know, pick either one, he gets stripped. Bam, done. I don't care if the guy's like, I'll fight the day after. I'll fight 2 years in a day. Nope, you're stripped, buddy. We're stripping you on weigh-in day. I don't give a crap. There needs to be a fine line of, bam, this is the date. And for interim titles, I don't think there should be any. If you put it clear, you have to fight. I don't care I don't care what the hell's happening in your life. If you don't fight within a year and a half or 2 years, on that date, on that hour, on that minute, on that second, you are no longer the guy. There's no issues. We're not sitting here talking about, if he fights on this date, make a fine line. Then you don't need interim titles. Right? Because when have you ever seen an interim champ come out and be like, yeah, I'm the most legit champ? You think interim champs feel like they're the champ? Deep inside? No. Right? It would be like, I don't know what it'd be like. I mean, you can't really relate it to sports, but it would be like if the team that won, or team that was going to win the Super Bowl, actually, no, it's a bad analogy, never mind. But the interim champs don't feel like they're the champs, so why even do it? Have a hard, fine line date, and you don't have this problem. Simple as that.
I agree.
Right? If you have a hard date, you don't need interim titles. It doesn't matter what's going on. I mean, I would say 2 years. Then you don't have this problem. The problem is Conor did the boxing match, and so Dana's giving him a little leeway.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. Anyways, I think something's gonna have to happen if Conor wants to keep his title before UFC 223. But that's just me. Anyways.
Yeah, nothing's gonna happen. He's getting stripped.
Episode 35 in the bag. Good one. Recap UFC 222. Talk a little bit about McGregor. UFC 222, a fantastic card. No card this upcoming weekend, but the following we have Alexander Volkov versus Fabricio Verdum, which I might be going with the dog again, Cole. Not to spoil my prediction, but I'm thinking about going with the dog.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, there you go. Make sure you like us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Make sure you hit us up. We're on Podbean now. We are on YouTube. We are on SoundCloud, iTunes. Follow us, like us, hit it with the overhand right, and we'll check you out next time.